Alright, welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kids off at school and deliver you a podcast while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, greetings. It's a lovely Thursday morning here in suburban Chicago. I'm already in just a sweater with the sleeves rolled up, and we're looking at 70s later today. It's a little windy, so I've got my hands around the microphone in a kind of wind shield. We'll see how that works. It might sound terrible, but as per my usual, if it sounds terrible, you won't hear it. Ha! Well, I hope that your week is going well. I was thinking about the kinds of things I wanted to talk about on this podcast, because, it's time to reflect on that. Now that this is episode 30, I think. I really like, my favorite episodes are the ones where I have an idea for something about the way that the world works, and it seems like it would make sense to talk about it in the context of board games as well. In particular, I really enjoyed the episode about Operation Paperclip and its role in how we recruited Nazi scientists. I thought that was pretty interesting to talk about, and hopefully you did too. It seems like it lends itself to interesting game mechanics as well. So that was my favorite episode that I've done. But there have been a number of others. I like the designer ones where I talk about somebody who's got a place in my collection. I've got a couple more of those planned, but I don't have that many more unless I start going down to 4 games or even 3. When we get to 3, it feels like that's not really that special, but we can account for that when it comes up. So what other kinds of discussions are there? There's the shooting from the hip episodes where I play a new game, and I want to talk about that for a few minutes. I'm worried that those might become reviews, and as I've said a number of times, I don't really want to be a reviewer. I would like to talk a little bit about my design process some. My design partner Rob and I are getting rolling again now that my conference is over on doing more design work. In fact, I have a call with him today. So I may talk about that some more, but I wouldn't want you to think that this podcast is just a marketing ploy. Although, if and when we get to the next point that we're doing a Kickstarter or something, you certainly will hear a little bit of an ad. If you haven't listened all the way to the end, you know I have the string on there where they say this podcast is brought to you by Rattlebox Games. So that is certainly part of what I'm doing, but not the sole purpose for it. If so, it's a terrible waste of time. I imagine if I spent my time, this time that I spend on the podcast in a different way, it would be more beneficial to the game company. Maybe. We'll see. But anyway, so one of the things that I like when I am listening to podcasters, the people that I listen to over time, like the hosts of the Blue Peg, Pink Peg, or the Secret Cabal, or even the lesser known but quite delightful Forgot My Dice podcast. The hosts Robert and Jonathan are both quite a delight. Or Board Game Blitz, I really like that one. Part of what I like about these podcasts is to start to develop a sense of who the hosts are. What kinds of things they like, why do they like what they do, and what do they play. And I think that's part of why so many podcasts include a What Have You Been Playing segment. Because as gamers, that's our favorite thing to talk about. What have you been playing? And so podcasters like to include that, but they also do it as a way to help us get to know who they are and what they like. So I've decided I don't want to include a What Have I Been Playing part of every podcast, because these are only 15 minutes. So if I'm using 4 minutes to talk about what I've been playing, that doesn't work. So I've decided is that once or twice a month, I'm going to do a What Have I Been Playing segment. And one of those is going to be an aspirational one each month, where I kind of report on the progress of a couple metrics that I use for myself. Now, I don't know if you do this. I really enjoy it as a board game task. I like keeping track of what I've played. I use the BG Stats app, which is very nice. I record everybody who plays with me so I can see who I've played with and when it was and so on. I'm one of those annoying people who gets his phone out after each game and records the score. But I also keep a couple other metrics, and one of them is one I got from another podcast I enjoy, the Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers, one that used to be a bit more regular in their publication schedule. They've dropped off quite a bit in the last couple years. I don't know if we'll see them come back. Every now and again they come back and say, yeah, we're coming back and it's going to be great, and then we don't hear from them again for a while. So, but I keep them in my feed with hopes that we'll get to hear from them again regularly. Tiff from that podcast regularly appears on Board Game Breakfast, I think, or The Blender, one of the two, doing a segment on games with school children. I believe she's a middle school teacher. But anyway, one of the segments that they do, that I stole, is called the Top of the Stack. The idea is they have a stack of games they want to play, and they pick out 3 that they move to the top of that stack. And the goal each month is to get those 3 played among the other games you play, like make a special effort to play those 3 games. And this is something I've been keeping track of for myself for a while, but honestly not putting much effort into. So I was thinking about, how could I actually put effort into it? What would I have to do to make this a functional part of my gaming diet? And I figured out the main thing would be is to put myself accountable to you folks. So I'm going to start keeping track of my top of the stack, not only on my geek list that I keep and no one sees, but also here on this podcast, which no one listens to. So I guess it's not that much more accountable, but there are, I know a few of you listen. I'm watching the numbers of the downloads, and there's enough of you that either you've added it to your subscribe feed and you're not listening at least, or occasionally I'll get a comment from someone who actually does listen, which is nice. Speaking of which, if you do listen, hey, a little comment saying you listen is always nice to hear. Anything you particularly like to hear me talk about, I'd be keen to hear ideas. I'm always looking for new subjects. So I decided to do a top of the stack / what I've been playing update twice a month. I'm going to try to do it in the middle of the month around the 15th and at the beginning of the month around the 1st, give or take. Or maybe the last podcast of each month I'll report on how I did with the top of the stack. Something like that. So for April, I have as my top of the stack the same 3 games that I've had on my list since, oh golly, I don't know when, a long time. Longer than is reasonable if I'm actually making an effort to get it done. So the top of the stack list has been this way for a couple months, but by reporting it out loud now, I'm going to make a real effort to actually get them played. So one of the games is Ravenous River, which is the old parable about, it seems to be inspired by the old parable about the farmer with the fox, a chicken, and a bag of grain. And you have to figure out how to get them all across the river. You can go look that up if you're interested. The next game on the list is Crow's Overkill, which is a card game. It seems like a filler level card game that I was given as a present from a friend of mine who took a trip to Asia. He went to Hong Kong for a while and picked this game up in a Hong Kong shop. And he got it for me a year and a half ago. And it's just now, like you could buy it now in a game shop here, but you couldn't have a year and a half ago. So it was fun to get that, but then I kind of wasted whatever lead time I had by not playing it. But I would like to. The theme is really funny, though. The theme is based around the idea of somebody who's at a geisha house, and he has to go home when he hears the crow call. And so he wrote this poem about how he would like to kill all the crows so that he could just stay the whole night. Which is a little pervy, but it's kind of a fun theme. So it has to do with getting something done before a certain number of crows are outside your window or something like that. It's a filler game. I'm actually looking at bringing it along. I'm going to a board game cafe on Friday. I'm going to try to bring it along and get it played there. The third game on the top of my stack is Alexandria, which is a game from Luda Creations, a company whose games I love the ideas of them. They always seem really cool. They're a small company out of Germany or Europe anyway, and they do really good job on Kickstarters. And this game is about the burning of the Library of Alexandria, and you play different characters trying to accomplish things while the library is burning down. It's a really neat theme, and the art is by Vincent Dutray, so it's really good art. And I've had it. It looks great. I keep wanting to play it, but I just haven't gotten it to the table. So that's going to be a must-do now that I've reported it to you, and you know those are my top 3. So those are the 3 games on my stack. I'm curious what games are on your stack. I'd love to hear what games you have that you want to play this month. Maybe if you commit to them, perhaps in the Board Game Geek forum for Pick Up and Deliver, you could just go in one of the threads, the thread where I mentioned this episode perhaps, or start one about top of the stack. Maybe I will. And let me know what your top of the stack is. And all nods to Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers for stealing their bit. And then finally, I've decided I'm going to start a 10 for 10, which April's a little weird of a time to do that, but what the heck. And a 10 for 10 is where you pick out 10 games that you want to play 10 times each during this course of the year. Now, because it's April, I'm picking out some games that we've already played a few times, but I'm just going to run through my list of them right now. Next month, I'll give you an update on where we are. But my 10 games that I want to play 10 times this year are Gloomhaven, 9 already. Stuffed Fables, 6 already. Pandemic Legacy Season 2, 5 already. Ex Libris, 3. Century Golem Edition, 3. Terra Mystica, I've played that twice. Arkham Horror LCG, I have not picked that up yet this year, but I really want to, so I'm going to commit to 10. Matainai, Roll for the Galaxy, and Via Nebula, all are still at 0, but they're all games I want to play with my daughter. She and I really like to play 2-player games together, and we haven't been doing that enough, so I'm making this commitment to try to get those played. So, what are your 10 for 10? What are your ambitions for managing your gameplays? Or do you think this is a silly waste of time and you don't manage it at all? Let me know. You can reach me by Twitter, Brendan, or at Rattlebox Games. You can email me, brendan@rattleboxgames.com. I'd love to hear from you by Facebook. There's a Rattlebox Games page, or on the Board Game Geek forum as well. So, thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. In the meantime, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Maybe a little less windy. Yikes. All right, bye-bye. Ravenous River, which is a game I picked up in a trade a while back. It's from Isaac Shalev. It seems to be loosely inspired by the old brain teaser about the farmer, the chicken, and the fox. Or the farmer with the chicken, fox, and a bag of grain. And the idea is that the farmer needs to get the chicken, the fox, and the bag of grain across the river. Only 2 of those 3 things can fit in his boat at once. And if he leaves any 2 of those, if he leaves the chicken with the grain, or he leaves the fox with the chicken, then those things will get eaten. So he can't leave, he has to leave something by itself. He can't leave 2 of the things together. Maybe the fox would run away if you leave the fox with the grain. I don't know, there's some reason he can't leave the fox with the grain also. Or he can leave the fox with the grain. No, that's not right. I think the fox would run away if it were left alone. Or if it were left with the grain. I don't remember. It's chicken, fox, and grain. Oh, he can't leave 2 of them together unsupervised. So he can't leave I don't remember. There's something about he can't leave all right, well, this is a terrible rejoinder, and I'm going to stop with it now. So it's the old parable.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.